Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to 22.0 tier list. So I have been meaning to do a tier list for a little bit now, I suppose. Obviously, I guess I'm not going to do a tier list every single time a new update happens, because maybe some of the changes aren't that great. But by God, if there was ever a tier list that changed the most drastically, it would be this one. I feel like most of the time, what an S plus tier card is pretty obvious. Like when the reign of Inquisitor, the reign of Dark Inquisitor Portal Keeper, the reign of Demon Hunter, just Demon Hunter by itself. Nothing could beat it because it was doing like just hundreds of billions of damage. I think that it's always been very obvious what the best card is. And with all of the recent changes, and all of the recent updates and the recent patch notes and the nerfs and the buffs and everything, I think that this is probably the tier list that has changed the meta the most. And I think that it's made it a lot healthier, even if people don't appreciate what this current meta is. And I have a lot to explain. Obviously, you can see how long the time is. Pack a sack lunch. I already know. Like, I haven't even, I'm obviously creating this audio right now, so I don't know how long this is going to be, but I trust that it's going to be very long, because I have a lot to say, while at the same time not having a lot to say, and I'll explain that as well. I thought that I'd leave this up as a graphic that you can look at for right now, because I have a lot of intro things that I want to talk about. For one, if you are going to comment about how this video is sideways and how all of my videos are sideways, I'm actually going to make a standalone video for whenever I get that as a comment, just so I can link them to the video of why. This is going to be, I do most of my videos as like a podcast style. Most of the things that I'm going to talk about, you're not going to see anything on screen, or you are going to see something on screen, but it's not going to really matter. I'm just going to be basically scrolling up and down my tier list that I've created on tier maker. I might go into the game so I can talk about a couple things in depth, but that's my essentially what I'm trying to say is you don't need to watch the screen. You can just listen to me talk. But inevitably, I'll always get like somebody that comments like, "Why is your screen sideways?" I'm like, it doesn't matter. You're not missing anything by not looking at the screen. Just listen to my voice. That's what's most important. But anyway, the other thing that I would like to talk about, because inevitably I'm going to get this comment as well. This is just my thoughts. These are just my own personal thoughts. If you feel the need to say this should be here and this shouldn't be here and this should be here and this shouldn't be here, I would encourage you to make your own tier list and upload it onto YouTube and get other people to tell you how yours is wrong, because that's exactly what's going to happen. These are just my thoughts. This is my own perspective on the game. It's what I see. This tier list was actually much easier to make than I thought it was going to be, because it's very obvious where all of these cards, a lot of these cards, not all of these cards, but a lot of these cards, it's very obvious where they stand. The last couple of days, I've been just furiously looking at leagues, 16, 15, 14, 13, all the way down to like 9, League 9. 9 and above are basically the high tier leagues. It's where people are going to start having maxed out decks, maxed out cards. It's where the pros exist. And if you're wondering why I would utilize that as my my barometer for where to rate these cards, and not, like my own personal, like what I'm going up against, right? Because if I was doing it like for what I'm going up against, I would be like, oh, Demon Hunter is the best. I don't see a lot of Meteor Minotaur. I never really play against that. I never play against a Max Sea Dog. I actually have never played against Sea Dog. in my entire existence of playing right now, I have never played against Sea Dog. I don't normally play against a Max Summoner either. I don't play against a lot of Zeuses. There's a couple occasional Zeus, a couple occasional Necromancer, but it's not a lot of anything. Robot Clock I can basically beat with Bloom and Dash Blade Dancer because that is what I'm playing. So I wouldn't even consider that top tier either. So if I were to only do a tier list that was just solely based on my own experience with the game and not the greater world of the game, it would be an inaccurate tier list because you need to go to the top leagues because those are the people that have maximum cards, the max cards of everything. They're running a completely maxed out talented deck. If you have access to literally every card at max level, what deck are you choosing to run? The best one. That's the answer. You are choosing to run the best deck. Right now, in my own current existence, and I'm assuming your current existence, you are running whatever is your best deck, right? Whatever you've decided to max out. I have decided to max out Blade Dancer, so I'm running Blade Dancer. I've decided to get a level 14 Night Statue, so I'm running Night Statue. Like, I am choosing to run my own, like, the only thing that I have maxed out. But if you had everything maxed out, every talent, everything, every equipment, max out everything, what would you choose to run? What is the best deck? That is why that barometer of looking at a League 16, even if you're never going to achieve a League 16, even if you are so far away from having 6,000 crit, the reason why it's important is because that is what a maximum deck has the potential to do. So as I go through this tier list and as I go through like these different cards and I talk about why things are in S+, why things are in S, and most importantly, why things are just in A. And I feel like you're already looking at me like, how is that an A card and not an S card, right? It's because when I was going through, when I was looking at, worldwide battles in leagues, none of those cards are being played. And if they are being played, they're getting beaten by everything else. My last disclaimer on this video is that a lot of cards in S+, I don't play with. I'm not in that endgame existence. A lot of those cards are only good at max level. You can't just copy the deck and then assume that you're going to win because people in League 16 with 6,000 crit and a maxed out version of that deck is winning. And you can't just copy that deck because those cards at lower levels with less talents are much worse. And everything in A will get pushed up. And you'll get beaten by those cards. But if you had max versions of those decks, you can potentially win. And you can potentially do a lot better. A robot clock deck where your robot is a level 9 and your clock is a level 7 is not going to be as good as a robot that's a level 15, a clock that is a level 15, a summoner that's a level 15, a dryad that's a level 15. Like, you are not going to, those aren't equivalent decks. And so trying to simply copy a deck that is in League 16 isn't going to work either. So that's just something to keep in mind as I talk about why I think these cards are placed where they are. And I did try to place them in order of where they would fit in the tier. And again, like, if you could switch a couple, you can like move this up, move this down. Again, these are just all my thoughts. So with all that being said, and that was already probably a really long intro, let's go into the actual everything. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to start in an F tier and then I'm going to go into extras, or I'm going to go into extras last. So F tier, these are all the cards that I would basically say never play with. Never play with any of these cards. I did put the cards that I think are at the top, and the cards that are at the bottom are basically the bottom. I think there's a potential for Hex. I still don't think it's good. I would still think never play it. But I think that Hex as a legendary and as what it does, if it got talents, it could potentially become really good. As it currently states, I don't think dealing or killing the waves is your biggest problem. Because even if you can kill the waves, you will still die to a very large boss. So maybe it pushes you further into later bosses, but you also have to upgrade your Hex, and you have to build around it. And I feel like there are just better ways of doing that. And I feel like just building up your damage with other cards, like a Chemist, like a Trapper, like a Witch with Gift of the Raven. I think that building up your damage is better than having a % chance of maybe theoretically killing a common unit. Because it's not going to kill mini bosses, it's not going to kill bosses. It's just very limited in what it can do. And I think that if you just do more damage with other things, that will take you further in the game. Because Hex might take you farther in the game, and then you'll just immediately die to a really heavy boss, because you're not increasing your damage, and you're not gaining any more damage against bosses. So bosses will always have the same amount of health, and your it'll just make your waves easier, but then you'll just get killed by a boss, and the boss effects. I think Stasis is like the best, or it's the worst of the slowdowns. I think that even Bombardier people are using. Trapper is obviously the best. But I think Stasis is just so inconsistent with its throwing. And even though it looks good because it stops everything, it's not giving you anything other than stopping. I even think Cold Mage is better, because it has the if the unit is below like a 10% or whatever it is, then it auto kills it. Stasis just simply stops things. It's the best version of a thing that just stops things. But because it's not doing any damage, that's why it's down there. Reaper used to be good at some point, and it's not even good in co-op anymore. I remember a long time ago, Reaper was really good in co-op because you could, as a co-op deck, as a support deck, because you could give your opponent less things to kill, and it became easier on your co-op partner. But even that, they added the Fortune Teller, and everything in the Fortune Teller's radius can't get insta-killed, and so it's even bad there. Everything else I'm pretty sure is obvious. Thunderer, Plague Doctor, Ivy, Pyrotechnic, these are all terrible. They have no base damage. They have no way of increasing their damage. They don't have talents. I think they're all pretty obviously bad. Even Priestess is pretty bad. Priestess as a damage dealer is kind of okay, but it definitely drops off very quickly. And then if you're trying to merge them, for mana, there are better ways of getting mana. And one of those ways is just dealing more damage. Dealing more damage gives you more mana. And that's pretty much why all of those are terrible. I've created a list. I did this last tier list as well, and I call it Best of the Bottom. And it's basically all of the cards that are commons, epics, and rares. And I feel like, but they are the best of those cards. They can potentially, like if you are very low in the game, if you are trying to get that first trophy, or the first chest, at League 4, I think that potentially these are the cards that will help you get to there, but it won't get you any further than there, because then you'll have to start using legendaries. Grindstone Boreas is obviously a thing, and that's why Grindstone is here. I think the Grindstone should have probably been put in B. I probably should have switched the Grindstone and the Boreas there. Boreas is just not great. Boreas is more of a support card than it is an offensive card. I think that it's better because of the speed up. and because of the sleep arrows, as opposed to being an actual damage dealer. And in fact, even when you're running Boreas Grindstone, Boreas is not your damage dealer, the Grindstone is your damage dealer. It's utilizing the idea that Boreas attacks so quickly, and Grindstone is actually your damage dealer. I think that Boreas Grindstone is an actual, like, reasonable deck. Again, outside of legendaries, I think Alchemist Golem, obviously in what is it, Royal Trials right now? Rush for Glory? I always get those two mixed up. The Royal Trials. Currently Royal Trials is happening, and I have been running Alchemist the entire time. I basically haven't, I've switched a couple of times to Lightning Mage, but basically, the Alchemist Golem deck is the best deck, is one of the best decks in Royal Trials. I think that outside of that, if you're going up against a legendary, you will probably lose. If you're going up against a random deck, you can usually catch them off guard with your golems, and you can win in the exact same way. But again, outside of, unless you're going up against commons, epics, and rares, I don't think you're going to win against a legendary. It's possible, but I think it drops off really fast as well. I really like Shinobi. I wish Shinobi was better. I think that it has the highest potential in terms of damage that a common epic rare can do. I think that the amount of damage that it can potentially do is crazy. But it's just so hard to get Shinobis. And then once you get it, then you have to build it up, as opposed to just being able to summon in Shinobis, which is why it's so low in this tier list. Engineer, Crystalmancer, I think both are basically around the same kind of area. They're both very good at max talents, but I think that they obviously both drop off as well. With Crystalmancer, I think that the High Arcanist is better than the other one. The potential for damage is much higher than just having a bunch of Crystalmancers. Yeah. I think the High Arcanist can do crazy critical damages, but the problem with that, of course, is the 3-second pause. That it only does the mega attack every 3 seconds, and once the bosses start having more health than that amount of damage, like if you're doing 3 million damage, that seems good, like very early on. But once your bosses have 10 million health and you have to hit them 3 times, and that's you have to wait 3 seconds in between each of those times, and once it starts having 50 million health and 100 million health, and it has to hit it that many more times, I think that it drops off. That's when you'll notice the drop off, and that's why it's so low on the list. I think that Vampire has a lot of niche uses. I think I was going to make a video, I'm probably going to do one after this, about Vampire in co-op as a support deck. And I don't think that Vampire or co-op support is really all that necessary, but I think that a free-to-play version where you only have like Harlequin, Mime, Shaman, Vampire, because Vampire is very easy to get, and if you have like the base set, a lot of people don't have Witch or Clock. I think the basic set, if you have that, that'll also help your co-op support. Outside of that, I don't think it's that great as a damage dealer, and I don't think that it's that great. It's fine if you're playing against really low level people, but at a certain point in the game, it's going to really drop off. You can have like really fun matches where you're running like a low tier toxic deck, where you're running like Snowflake and Harlequin and Shaman and Mime and Vampire, and you could run like Witch, and use Vampire as like a damage dealer, but that damage falls off in maybe like 3rd or 4th round, and so you kind of have to use something else. I was using Alchemist Golem, but again, like if you go up against somebody with like a mermaid, even a level 1 mermaid, it just really screws you over. and it's not as great as you would think. When you can bite units down so that you can use mimes and shamans more often, that is when it shines, and that's why I think that it shines really well in co-op support, like free-to-play, kind of free-to-play co-op support. But outside of that, I don't think it's that great. If you're using it for the other ability where you're empowering your own units, and you're using that as your support card as opposed to witch, trapper, chemist, knight statue, like enchant sword. Like, you have so many better options than vampire. If you are this low in the game, I think that it'll shine, and that's why it's called the best of the bottom. If you don't have all of those legendaries, but if you have those legendaries, you're just going to replace it with. Earth Elemental, it's in a couple of niche decks, mainly the Banshee deck. I question maybe putting it in B, but I don't think it's used in anything else other than that to warrant putting it any higher than this. Cold Mage, I think, is one of the better slowdowns if you don't have a legendary. If you don't have Trapper, obviously. It's fine. I don't think it's the best thing. Frost is also a better, obviously, the best slow. But Frost or Trapper, if you just have Cold Mage, it's fine. Again, if you don't have legendaries, it's okay. Gargoyle, I really want to like. If it got talents, I think it would be much better. Banner and Executioner, they're both okay at what they do. I think Banner has a couple of niche uses, but I think Knight Statue is so far and above it that it's not that great. Like, if you are gonna run something, you're probably gonna run Knight Statue. And I think outside of the typical day modifier in tournament, I don't think you're gonna run Banner. And even then, like, I think Witch is obviously much better as well. And I don't think I think that even in an Inquisitor deck, I think you would still rather run Knight Statue for the crit percentage, because you're getting the speed anyway from that. And then you're also getting the crit percentage, and you're getting damage with Knight Statue talents as well. And it just far outpaces it. Hunter hasn't been great for a while. There haven't been any decks that have used Hunter. And then Cauldron and Zealot, I want to love them. I want to love them so much. They're like my favorite cards, and they're just so terrible. Moving up to B, I wasn't really sure where to place Portal Mage. I don't see a lot of people using it, but I do see some top tier level decks using it. I saw a Tesla deck use it, and I saw a Meteor Minotaur deck use it. I haven't even played with mine, because I'm very patiently waiting to max it out. I just need the cores for the last talent. So I haven't even played with mine to see how good or bad it is. But I do know that there's just so many more support cards that I'll talk about here. Enchant Sword, Trapper, Chemist. And then above that, Witch, Knight Statue. Witch, Knight Statue, Summoner. That are just that are in so many more decks. Because you only have so many slots for your support cards. And I feel like when I get to the top tier over here, there's a lot of like really good support cards. And I feel like because there's only a specific number of slots for support cards, you really have to pick and choose which ones you want to use. And that's why I say that whether you have the support cards at max levels or high tiers. If you don't have them at high tiers, maybe a Portal Mage is something that you would want to use. If you don't have a level 14 Witch, maybe you want to use like a max out Portal Keeper or Portal Mage with talents. Maybe that becomes your best support card. Maybe you only have a level 7 Knight Statue, so you can't really run a level 7 Knight Statue, and you have a max Portal Mage. Maybe Portal Mage becomes the best card for you. If you don't, like I said in my intro, if you don't have the higher tier cards at max level or close to max level where you're getting the value out of the talents, it's possible that these lower tier cards will become better for your deck. Enchant Sword, the fall from grace for Enchant Sword. I think Enchant Sword is the best version of the like bottom tier support cards. I misdid this a little bit. I think I might have put Enchant Sword at the top. I think that Eternal Gaze is really good. It's just so slow. And I don't think I would run it for the cleanse, but you could run it with the cleanse. I think I would, because I remember when Enchant Sword was great. And when Enchant Sword was ruling the world and it was one of the best cards, level 9 Enchant Sword with Awakening was so good. And one of the biggest like hurdles was get a level 13 Enchant Sword so that not only are you getting the passive bonuses off of the Awakened Sword, but you're also getting the cleanse. You have the every so often cleanse because you're also getting the passive bonus with the Awakening Sword. Now you have to choose whether or not you want the passive bonus from Eternal Gaze, or if you want to merge out swords to maybe cleanse something. The cleanse is awful because you have to merge out swords and because you have to summon in two equivalent sword levels and then merge them out and hope that it hits one of your units that's summoning or that has a debuff of some kind, and then on top of that, hope that the percent chance works, and it's not because it's not 100%, and hope that percent chance works. And what if it doesn't? Now you have to summon in 2 other swords. It's awful. Just get a level 5 mermaid. But so essentially, if you are going to run Enchant Sword, it's only good at level 13 when you can get Eternal Gaze. But Eternal Gaze is just so horribly slow because you're getting it once every boss round. But that's all going to depend on how many boss rounds can you survive, and how quickly can you set up. Because if you start merging stuff out, and like you've gone through 5 bosses and you start merging out all the things that have been gaining stuff, then all of a sudden that's much worse as well. If you get Bedlam flipped, if there's just so many different kinds of factors. I think it's still fine. It's just not great. I think Trapper is probably the best version of a low tier support card. And it's weird that I'm saying that this is a low tier support card, because I think if you looked at my video from my last tier list, Trapper used to be S+. Like Enchant Sword used to be S+, or at least S. And the fall from grace for both of these, it's kind of crazy. Because once I get to S+, the support cards that people are using at max level, at max talents, they're like, you can't beat them. They just do so many different things that these quote unquote outdated support cards don't do. And though they do it better. Again, if you don't have like a max tier Frost or a max tier Summoner, I think these are still good. But you should probably switch your investment into those, because they have talents. If a Trapper or a Chemist got talents, this entire tier list could potentially change, and it probably will. But as of right now, I think that's where this sits. I think Sharpshooter is still fine. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. I just think that high tier level decks don't care if their entire field gets stunned, and because they changed it from 6 seconds to 4 seconds during boss rounds, even if you do an entire board stun, most high tier level decks can recover from it, because they can easily just they've killed the boss instantly. You eventually stun them, and then they have the ability to wait the 4 seconds and then just insta-kill the next boss. Unless you are able to out-damage them, Sharpshooter is not going to work anymore. And that's what I was running into a lot of the time when I was running Sharpshooter. I thought that I could punch up against higher tier decks, and what was happening was, because I was subbing out a potential thing that would give me more damage, like a trapper, like a chemist, like a witch, like a night statue, because I was, instead of using Sharpshooter, I was dealing less damage, at which point, since they were able to out damage me, the stun didn't matter. Because then they were just able to insta-kill every single boss, and I start struggling much earlier on with bosses. It's always better to out damage your opponent than it is for you to try to stun them. Because for the most part, it's probably not going to work, especially with so many mermaids running around as well. Boreas and Demonologists, I just really didn't know where to place them. They're not really like best of the bottom, but they are at the bottom of the legendaries. This is the biggest change, and this is the thing that you will notice the most. These are the legendary damage dealers that just aren't top tier anymore. And it's very sad for me to say, but I don't think Inquisitor is that great anymore. People have been screaming that it's not great, or it hasn't been great for a while. And I haven't really believed that, because I was always facing Inquisitor. Inquisitor is one of the most common things that I always face. And I'm actually, I'm going to max out my Inquisitor, not this month, obviously, but next month when I get a Book of Secrets, I'm probably going to max out my Inquisitor then, because I just upgraded it to 14. With that being said, I think it's the best of the old school version of the top tier decks, followed probably by Cultist. Cultist, even at low crit percentage and at low levels, it's still really good. The amount of damage that a Harbinger of Evil Cultist has the ability to do is crazy. I'm going up against it like with my maxed out Bloomy Dash Blade Dancer, and you know, I'm facing people with like 2,000 crit less than me, and it's like, it's punching up there. I think that Blade Dancer is only better than Bruiser because I don't even see Bruiser in the tops of anything. Blade Dancer got the buff, but I don't think it mattered because because it didn't push it hard enough. I don't think that Elegant Parry is that much better. I don't think and especially if you're trying to run Floral Frenzy, I've gone an entire like 30 round in co-op where a lot of my Blade Dancers at the end of 30 rounds have 10, 12, 15, 20 flowers. And maybe there are 2 of them that have 50 or above 50, like the center ones, obviously. But the fact that your the flower spread is so spread out, the fact that you're getting 50% or 1% for every flower up to 50, the fact that you could potentially get 50%, but potentially a lot of your Blade Dancers will not go up to 50, is a problem. If all of them could go to 50, if you could like touch a Blade Dancer and every single time that it starts on the flower bouncing starts with that Blade Dancer, that would make it better, but it's not. It's random, and for the most part, maybe 2 or 3 of your Blade Dancers will get to 50 plus flowers, but for the most part, most of your outside Blade Dancers will not. They will be in the low, like, less than 20s, and it's really bad. Because then, if you get Warlocked and one of those, plus 50 Floral Frenzy stack Blade Dancers dies, even a Warlock. Now, I'm not even talking about full Bedlam. Full Bedlam, you just die. But even a Warlock or a Monkey King or just like a Dark Priest, if a Dark Priest hits your like main one, it's really bad for you. And I don't think that the update certainly helped Blade Dancer, but it didn't help it enough. Bruiser, I don't even see in the top. And Riding Hood, even though it could potentially be good, because it hasn't even come out yet, I wasn't really sure where to rank it. I just know that it ranks above Corsair, because it's probably going to be better than Corsair at least, and it's probably going to be better than B tier cards. I wasn't really sure where to rank it, in the same way that when Sea Dog came out, that one ranking, I wasn't really sure where to rank that. Nobody has a Riding Hood yet because the event hasn't even happened. And then even when it does happen, obviously most people will have it at level 7, level 9 maybe. Maybe top tier people will have it at level 15 because they're just going to spend $500, I suppose. But I wasn't really sure where to rank it because it hasn't come out yet. S tier. This is really interesting. Because I remember, like, most of my A tier used to be an S tier, and this is obviously going to be a completely different, thing. Harley Quinn is the biggest fall. I struggled whether or not to be able to put it in S plus, and in my last tier list, Harley Quinn Dryad was like in every single deck. But the thing about the new tier list, as you'll see. Most decks are now merge decks. There isn't the original, like everything in A, like an Inquisitor deck, a Cultist deck, a Bruiser deck. All of those decks, a Blade Dancer deck, all of those decks sit in one place, and you just want to upgrade them over the course of the game. You just want to take an Inquisitor to level 7. You want to take a Cultist to level 7, right? You want to take like a Bruiser to level 7, and the best way to do that was with a Harley Quinn and a Dryad. The top tier decks are all merge decks. Most of them are merge decks except for a Spirit Master. And I looked at, for the last couple of days, I've been looking at the leagues. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is what I'm talking about. Battle history, worldwide, and if you go from like League 9 to League 15, okay, sure, why not? League 9 to League 15 is basically where you want to look at your what the top decks are. And if you go through the top decks, this will help explain why I've chosen all of these things. If you keep seeing the same deck, it's because the same person is winning. So also be sure that you're looking at... Should I just pause this for my internet to come back? I'll be 1 second. And we're back. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to Worldwide. And if you look at like League 9 to League 15, those are basically going to be what your top decks are. So if you look here, it's like Monk. This is Cultist versus Monk. Inquisitor, Monk versus Blade Dancer. This is where you're going into Demon Hunter versus Demon Hunter Witch versus. This is like what is this, like Meteor? It's kind of like a toxic deck. It's like Meteor Frost, Demonologist with Mari is cute, but that's still lost. Tesla Clock. This is Robot Clock. This is the new Meteor Minotaur with the Portal Mage, and I think that Portal Mage is doing well in that deck. It's a 2 billion damage game. This is Cultist. See, like Cultist does really well. But then when you switch to like League 15, Spirit Master Witch, the Spirit Master deck, just in general, is apparently really good. It beats a lot of things. Was there just like a full reset? There must have just been... Oh no! There was just like a full reset of everything. Is that League... Was it 10? Okay. Yeah, this is the Portal Mage with Meteor and Frost and Summoner. This is Demon Hunter with Witch. Robot Clock with Frost. This is Demon Hunter Witch, Demon Hunter Witch. Robot Clock. Monk, but it's still losing to Demon Hunter Witch. But yeah, like, whenever you want to look at, you know, like what the top decks are, that's where you can pull from. And if you just look at the cards that everybody is using all the time, that's basically how I'm creating this tier list. Because I'm going to tell you right now, most of these top tier cards I don't use, and it's getting to the point where the realm that I exist in with my own account, it's in this A tier down realm. Where I still think like an Inquisitor is a really good card. Obviously I have maxed out Blade Dancer and I still think it's a very good card. But there's an entire like top tier where you need like all of the talents of max legendary units and not just the one like you would need for an Inquisitor deck or a Blade Dancer deck or a Cultist deck. You need them all. You need like the Infinity Stones of you have to collect the Infinity Stones of like all of these top tier level cards and you put them all in the same deck. Like with a Blade Dancer deck, even if you don't have a high tier Dryad, it's fine. Even if you don't have a max Harlequin, it's fine. Even if you don't have a max Night Statue, it's fine. It's still like a reasonably good deck. When you see a deck that's like the Spirit Master deck, it's a max Spirit Master, a max Summoner, a max Dryad, a max Night Statue. Like all of those cards and all of those talents make that deck what it is. If you have a sub version of that deck, it's not as good. But it's a much harder deck to acquire because you need all of these legendaries at maximum, and you need to talent them, which means you also need all the cores and all the gold. And so when I start talking about all of these cards, understand that all of these cards are good, but they're only good at max, and they're not that great if you have them at sub max. If you have like a level 9 version or a level 11 version. In most cases, a Summoner, and the reason why it's almost at the top, Summoner is really good at level 13 and level 15. It's fine at level 9, but the reason why it's top tier, it's because of the level 13 and level 15 talents. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Harlequin used to be good because Harlequin and Dryad was such a combo. Harlequining everything that you need and then using Mermaid Bubbles to get rid of the debuff, or Harlequining a Dryad so that you can get double usages out of a Dryad. It was so good at a certain point. In the current meta, Harlequin seems to be the card that is being dropped for a better card, for an extra something, for an extra support card, where it doesn't need it. And in most cases, Summoner is the better card. It basically does everything that a Harlequin would do in the sense that it duplicates a card for you, but it's doing it for free. And again, like I said, Harlequin or Summoner is only good at level 13 and level 15, which is what I suspected when Summoner got talents. And I'm glad that that's proving correct. Gift of the Ancestors, merging the Oracle whenever you get the special Summoner. You accumulate spirits. When the Summoner summons a unit, it gives all of the player's units a 1% damage bonus for each accumulated spirit for 10 seconds. The duration is increased by 0.25 for each of the spirits. After 10 spirits, there is a 20% chance of activation on any unit when they appear. As in, any unit when they appear. It's insane. And then the one with nature is like the cap off to that entire Oracle story. When you have a level 9 summoner, you're not gaining these damage percent bonuses, and you're certainly not getting the one with nature crit damage increase. They've had to nerf summoner twice, and everybody is still using it, which should tell you how good it is. That it was so overpoweredly good that everybody was using it, and now it got nerfed twice, and everybody is still using it. But again, it's only good at level 13 and level 15. I think Night Statue, if you don't have a maxed out Witch, Night Statue is very good. I remember when Night Statue came out, and I didn't really appreciate Sharpened Spear. I have grown in my appreciation for Sharpened Spear. I think Sharpened Spear allows you more flexibility in usage, because you can potentially run just the one Night Statue and merge out all of the other ones. Night Statue used to be intrinsically tied with Scrapper, and now it's not. If you run Sharpened Spear and just merge out all of the other Night Statues around you, you can totally just run one Night Statue and power that one Night Statue up, and the deck still works. I think that if you have it at max and you're getting the 10%, you're getting the attack and the minus 10% defense, I think that makes it much better as well. And the potential for growth, if you can get all of the bounce backs for the hold the line, is that what it is? The roll call ability. If you can utilize the roll call ability to its fullest, I think that your Night Statue will become a lot better as well. Minotaur, I think that this is my first tier list where I didn't put the Meteor Minotaur into a separate category, and it's because they've earned that. Minotaur is becoming the poster child for the new Necromancer deck. Necromancer with Sea Dog and Minotaur is becoming the thing. It's not Shaman anymore. Shaman and Witch as toxic cards are not being used at all. The new Toxic deck doesn't even use Shaman or Witch, because using Frost and freezing your opponent is much better than giving them the option of merging something out. Witch will not kill an opponent immediately. Shaman, you have the ability to have 3 seconds to do whatever you want with your unit. Neither are being used as toxic cards. The reason why Minotaur is so good is because it can be used as a slight toxic card, because when it summons in, you can stun 2 things for 2 seconds. So it's kind of like a robot, but it has better damage potential than a robot. With robot, you have to copy them and merge them, and it's a whole thing. Minotaur, you can just summon in, and whenever you merge out, you can percent damage the entire field, and that, over the course of a game, is much better. I think Minotaur is very good just by itself. I think it is in a very specific like Necromancer toxic deck, but even with that being said, it is in some Meteor Minotaur decks where it's just a percentage damage deck. You're running Meteor to deal a large quantity of damage when you merge out, and then you're using Minotaur's Rockfall to do even more percent damage because of the missing health. It's just a power combo, and I think that Minotaur, its usages at high level with talents unlocked, it's very strong. I think that Monk, even though it has been nerfed a couple of times, I think it's still pretty good. You just have to play it a lot differently now. You can't just fill your field and then just press the button. You're going to have to upgrade them, then fill your field and press the button. It's much more difficult than it used to be. But I think that it's still pretty good. It still has the potential for high-end damage if you have a max monk. I think that Banshee is the only card that is above the A tier list because it is seeing some amount of play in a number of decks that are not just a Banshee DPS deck. There is an Executioner, there is a Corsair Banshee deck that is running around. So you're using Banshee to neutralize the boss so that your Corsair, the Corsair percent bombs can kill the boss over the course of when it's on the field. And that goes pretty far and that goes pretty hard. But Banshee, even without that, everybody's focus was on Monk, that there is no focus on Banshee. And I think Banshee is going to start to poke its head out and be like, hey, you all forgot about me, even though I'm basically the same thing as a Monk. And because, like when it has activation, it levels up stuff. And it has the max out ability. Again, it's a card that is really good when it's maxed because the ability of neutralizing boss abilities with its max ability is insanity. I think it's going to be a top tier support card at some point. I think people are going to just use it as a support card just to neutralize bosses until maybe when Bombardier gets talents and gets that ability back. In terms of the top tier S plus cards, in almost no particular order other than having the support cards first, Dryad, Summoner, Frost, Witch. Those cards are freaking everywhere. Dryad will always be a good card. It's much quicker than Scrapper. Actually, with that being said, do I not have Scrapper anywhere? Oh, it's in my it's in my extra cards. Oh, okay. Dryad is just much quicker than Scrapper. In any deck that you want to leave a card somewhere and level it up, Dryad is the thing to do. It's obviously much better with the gold fairies at max level, but even at low level, it's really good. The thing that really sells Dryad is the fact that it's a support card that not only levels you up, but also gives you a percentage of damage to the rest of your units. Fairy of Rage is why it will consistently stay in S+. Whereas Harley Quinn obviously can drop out. If they give Harley Quinn an ability, like a talent ability, where it's like every single time you copy something, your field gets a 1% damage boost, everybody will start using that again. Because Dryad gives you Fairy of Rage bonus damage, that is the real reason why you're still seeing it obtain play. If it didn't, I think more people would just use Scrapper, or Scrapper would be on par with Scrapper, but because it is both leveling you up very early game and giving you percent damage, the percent damage is what's really selling it as one of the top tier cards. Once you get the Poisonous Fruit, that's also getting rid of Mermaid Bubbles because everybody runs Mermaid. So that's another thing that you can time out. If you think that they're going to get bedlammed, and you hold back a couple of mermaids, then level up, then hit all their shields, and then they get bedlammed, so that the mermaid shields don't protect them from bedlam. You can technically win a battle because you have Dryad, and that's just a potential thing that you can do with a level 13 talent. But again, you have to have a level 13 talent. Summoner, I just went into. Frost is becoming the new best support card. It's not just a support card in toxic decks. It's not just in the Necromancer deck. It is in Robot Clock. Being able, and again, max out Frost. A level 7 Frost is not top tier. A level 15 Frost King, or a level 15 when you get the Frost King ability. Being able to freeze out multiple cards just every so often is so strong. It's being run in Robot Clock. It's being run in Tesla Clock. It's being run in just a lot of different decks, as well as a Necromancer deck. Being able to freeze out the edges and being able to freeze the middle with Frost just sitting there is insanity. It also has the ability, again, to slow. And sometimes if you're running a mirror match, you might win because you have Frost and they don't, and you're able to slow the field a little bit slower than them, because if you're both going to die, but you can slow the field, you will win. And so it's also a win condition as well. Witch it's all Gift of the Raven. People don't use Witch for what Witch was before. It's not Toxic Witch anymore. The Circle of Curses is what is just kind of a bonus. Not being able to run not being able to use a tile is just a bonus. It's another thing that you can run with Robot Clock. Robot Clock, you're running Witch, you're running Frost. You can freeze out a tile. You can run Weakness. You can run Amulet of Weakness, freeze out 4 tiles. Use Frost to freeze out individual things that they can't avoid. It's not on a, it will get frozen in 3 seconds if you don't do anything. They just auto get frozen, right? You're slowing them down with Clock. You're stunning them with Robot. All of these things work together. They don't work individually. They're not great individually if you just have one of these at like a level 15. But if you gather the Infinity Stones and you have all of these things at level 15 and you're able to use all of the abilities together, it's crazy. Which with Gift of the Raven at level 15, when you get to 30 merges and you can have any level witch next to something and give something that much bonus damage, mixed with the second ability, which is every so often it has the ability to insta-kill stuff. So obviously during like late game, when you start having like the waves being into the hundreds of millions of damage, being able to insta kill any one of those is huge. That increases your ability to survive. And then the Gift of the Raven is increasing your damage by a crazy amount. Circle of Curses freezes out a tile, and then you have Fire Witch. The gift, like the Witch, is being used in that exact same way across the board. It works in Spirit Master, it works in Robot, it works with Demon Hunter. It just does so much, and it's gotten to the point where if you aren't running a Witch, you are at a significantly lower. You're doing significantly less damage than your opponent with a Witch that's maxed out will do. And it's why everybody that is running damaging decks that are not Meteor, damaging decks that deal damage, Demon Hunter, Robot, Spirit Master, Tesla. That's why everybody's running Witch, and it's very good. Sea Dog is becoming the new best, most versatile damage unit. I think Demon Hunter is still very strong, but I think Sea Dog does a lot more. Sea Dog slots into a lot of different kinds of decks. You can run a deck where Sea Dog is your main damage dealer, and all of your support cards add to its damage. Or you can run a toxic version of the deck and run Sea Dog and Meteor and Minotaur and Necromancer. There's just so many different options that you can run with Sea Dog, but again, level 15 Sea Dog, or at least level 13. Level 15, you'll get the pirate ship, which will add to your damage, but level 13, you get the explosive surprises. And unlike Shaman, you can't react to explosive surprises. It's too hard. Demon Hunter is still very high up there. Spirit Master is still very high up there. I think Spirit Master Witch Night Statue is the deck. It's basically just being copied. It's just a maxed out version of all of those cards, utilizing everything that I've just stated. It's very strong because of the burst potential when you activate it, and then you just burst down a boss. You can burst down like 100 million damage boss with just one activation. It's very strong. Meteor is a little bit above Minotaur, but they're both very good. I think that Meteor is being used even just by itself in a lot of different decks. It's the Apocalypse ability at level 15 is just a really good, like, come out of nowhere kind of deal. The Meteor deck is also so good because it doesn't need to necessarily run Mermaid, because you're always merging things out and you don't care about any of your cards. You can just merge out most of your deck. Robot and Tesla Clock are kind of paired all together. They all basically do the same thing. Robot, you get a little bit more stun, whereas Tesla, you kind of want to go damage. Your support cards are basically damage, whereas Robot, you're running Frost and Summoner and Witch. Tesla, you're probably going like Enchant Sword, maybe like maybe Chemist, and you're trying to do more damage, and you're trying to just build up the Tesla by itself, because that's all you basically need to do. Clock is also another good card that you really need at much higher level. I have been running a level 9 Clock. It's not as good as a level 15 Clock. The fact that it only does the one thing, you need to have that one thing be the best thing that it can be. And at higher levels, as you increase the level of Clock, it's just going to be better and better and better to slow down your opponent's field. The fact that you, when you merge things out, when you merge 2 Clocks out, the fact that it doesn't hit their entire board doesn't even matter. You just want high level Clocks and just a lot of them. And they're basically in decks where you don't run a lot of cards. And so Tesla, you only really want to run like the 4 and the 2 Night Statues. With Robot, you just want to get to really high level robots, and you just want to merge up. And then the rest of your field is just Clocks. And that's basically the only way to beat decks that are going to out damage you. So like a Demon Hunter deck that's going to out damage you. A Sea Dog deck that's going to out damage you. It's the only way to fight against that. A Monk deck that's going to out damage you. And the only hard counter to Clock is Banshee. But there's not a lot of people with a level 15 Banshee. But yeah, that's my tier list. Make sure to let me know in the comments how wrong I am about all of this. 'Cause I trust somebody will. But, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of change. I think that we live in an entirely new meta now. But I also think that even if you look at these A tier cards and you think that they're awful, or an S tier card and you think it's awful, they're not awful. A lot of people think that because it's so far down, like I put a Blade Dancer in A tier, but there's like an S tier and an S plus tier, that it's worthless, it's useless, nobody needs it, right? Just understand that it's much easier to level 15 one Blade Dancer or one Cultist and have level 7s everything else and still be able to run a decent deck. Whereas if you are going to say like, oh, well, I should build the Sea Dog deck, you need so many things more than just a level 15 Sea Dog. So not only do you need a level 15 Sea Dog, you also need a level 15 Summoner and a level 15 Witch and a level 15, Night Statue. You need all of these other things to make that deck good, to make it an S plus deck. These are S plus cards, but to build an S plus deck, you need all of these things at level 15. Whereas with an A tier deck, it's still very good. And there's a lot less investment that you need. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, let me know what you guys think.